All right, as the U.S. military struggles to meet its recruiting and retention goals, the U.S. Army is inviting former soldiers who were driven away from service over the COVID jab mandate to return to the military. Well, is this a sign that the woke political activism within the military is somehow receding? And are there any kind of legal implications that this could have for future military mandates? Joining me now to discuss this is Mike Berry. He's the Vice President of External Affairs, and the Director of Military Affairs, and the Senior Counsel at First Liberty Institute. He not only fought on behalf of our nation's finest, he has also proudly served our nation himself. Mike, welcome back to Washington Watch, and thank you so much for your service.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be back with you.
It's always great to have you. All right, well, tell us a little bit about these letters to former service members. Is this what's your take on this?
Well, my take, Jody, is that in order to have an all-volunteer military such as ours that is going to function and work as it's supposed to, it requires trust. And trust has always been a two-way street in the military. But unfortunately, for the past few years, and our military leadership has done nothing but shatter that trust. And when that happens, you end up with people leaving the military in droves, the mothers and fathers of America telling their kids they don't want them to join the military, even if they themselves are veterans. And you have service members and veterans across the country who no longer feel that they can trust the military to be an organization that is going to protect our country and to do what's best for the troops. And that's what we're seeing now. And they're begging people to come back now and saying, oh, we got rid of the vaccine mandate. Well, guess what, Jody? The people that I work with and I've represented, they say, look, you already, fool me once, shame on you, right? Fool me twice, shame on me. And it's thanks, but no thanks. And unfortunately, First Liberty warned the DOD about this when we sued the Navy on behalf of our Navy SEALs. And we said, if you go down this path and you continue to dig in your heels as you have and entrench yourselves, you're going to lose our military and they're not going to trust you. And you're going to have a recruiting and retention crisis. And we're going to face a real threat to our national security, not one that's made up like COVID. And those chickens are now coming home to roost.
They certainly are. And I think you hit the nail right on the head with that. I don't know if you were able to hear, but we just had Congressman Keith Self on, and he actually brought up the same issue, that this has developed an enormous lack of trust. But he brought up that even the letter itself says you may be reinstated, you may have your record cleaned or whatever, but even the letter itself does not offer any kind of guarantees as these military personnel are, theoretically at least, being invited to re-enlist. That just further throws lack of trust on a fire that's already there, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I could say better myself, that these letters that we're seeing, there's no guarantee, there's no admission of wrongdoing, right? There's no accountability. It's the first thing that you learn in the military is that if you do something wrong, especially if you were an officer, as I was, the response is always no excuse, sir. I own up to whatever the error was, whatever the mistake was, whether it was me or somebody who was under my responsibility. It's ultimately the buck stops with me, and you're not seeing that type of leadership from the Pentagon, from the Department of Defense, and so people don't trust it, and they say, this letter says nothing. All it says is they want me to make myself available because they're worried about not meeting their recruiting numbers yet again. But it doesn't say anything about accountability. It doesn't say we made a mistake, we were wrong, we shouldn't have done what we did. And that's because we all learned the hard way that the number one job of a bureaucracy is to perpetuate its own existence. It's not about accountability. It's not about accomplishing the mission. And in this case, it's not about protecting religious freedom, which is one of the things that our military exists to do. And that's why First Liberty had to file the lawsuit, is to say, you are running roughshod over the Constitution. And I sure wish that our military leaders were as concerned with 100% Constitution compliance as they were with 100% vaccine compliance.
Well, we all owe a huge debt of gratitude to First Liberty for being on the tip of the spear for this issue. But Mike, your take then, what I'm reading into this is the administration has not learned anything. They're not admitting any wrongdoing. They're not necessarily changing or shifting away from their woke policies. They're not saying there's not going to be any further mandates where religious liberties could be attacked again, religious exemptions ignored. Your take on this is nothing really is changing. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly right. No, I don't think anything has changed, and I think the troops know that. Our service members are not fools. They can see through this a mile away. They know what this is all about. This is all about just trying to save face, trying to make sure that on paper our military is meeting its recruiting and retention numbers, but it has not. There's again zero accountability. There's zero integrity, and unfortunately the service members who are relied upon to defend our nation, they're leaving in droves still, and I think we're going to see another year, if not longer, of our military failing to meet its recruiting goals, losing its best people. The people who have all the experience, the Navy SEALs that we represented, there are 35 of them that we started off with. We turned it into a class action. Collectively, they have more than 300 years of service and more than 100 years of combat experience. And you can't replace that kind of leadership, Jody. You can't go out and recruit that much combat experience, the type of experience that you earn through places like Fallujah and Ramadi and Helmand province of Afghanistan. And those people are now leaving our military because they've lost that trust. They no longer believe that military leadership has their best interest or even America's best interests at heart. And so, that's what happens when you start playing, social experimentation and woke politics with our military.
Wow. Well, it's chilling news, but it's not necessarily information that we didn't suspect from this administration. Mike Berry, thanks to you and First Liberty Institute, all you do, all your leadership. We're grateful. Happy Thanksgiving to you.